lot of people will say there's no money in jiu-jitsu. Is that actually true? Something interesting that has not happened in the jiu-jitsu community is in today's podcast, I am going to break down how we launched a 50K jiu-jitsu offer, which is freaking crazy. We didn't scam anyone. We didn't build out a ClickFunnels website. We didn't run a crazy amount of ads. And I just want to share you what we did and what I learned from it. So welcome to a friend zone where I break down the behind the scenes of the business stuff, and this is kind of the stuff that I don't really talk about too much. If you don't know, jiu-jitsu is notoriously known for being a broke market. People will say, oh, you can't make money doing jiu-jitsu. No one will pay for high ticket jiu-jitsu services, but that's not true. Or as the kids say, cap. God, I'm dating myself. Anyways, when we look around in the industry, we see the BJJ Fanatics DVDs. Gordon Ryan makes an insane amount of money, but something interesting that has not happened in the jiu-jitsu community is high ticket, which is really interesting. And if you don't know, I run an inbound sales advisory, Kaizen Closing. I'm an inbound sales strategist. You might be like, what the hell is that? And I do three things. I work on pricing strategies, sales conversations that don't sound like super Wolf of Wall Street, and then I also create irresistible offers. And the area that I love delving into is the realm of high ticket or premium offers. By the way, I hate the word high ticket and closers. It's so scammy. Never been a fan of that. Anyways, and you might be asking, well, Kevin, how are you guys charging 50K for an offer? Well, I lied. It's actually 48, but who's counting? And it's over the course of a year. And when you look at the industry, a lot of people are paying like what, $50 per session, $100 per session. From an hour-to-hour basis, we're charging almost 5 times. And it's because for a few factors. It's the market that we delved into, the offer. But to be honest, while I have crafted offers in other industries, this was the first time I did jiu-jitsu. And if you don't know, jiu-jitsu is my bae. I love jiu-jitsu. I've been doing it for about 5 years now. I'm a 10th planet blue belt. A lot of people might clown on me for that. If you guys are white belts, you'll probably throw up the sign like this. It's first planet. But anyways, yeah. And so what I want to do is just walk you through the steps of how we launched a premium offer, how we scaled it to, it's not 100K per year, but we're on track. We're probably sitting around what, 6 to 7K per month. So whatever that times 12, 84K right now per year, just through a jiu-jitsu offer. That's not including private coaching or anything like that, which is really, really crazy. And so let's just go over the step-by-step that we did and how we launched this offer, because it's really, honestly, talking about this makes me super excited looking back on how much we did over last year, and it changed Patrick's life. Maybe I'll get Patrick on one of these podcasts, but he's back in LA, I'm here in Vegas. So my jiu-jitsu journey all started back in 2010. It was like kind of like a Dragon Ball Z type of thing, right, where there's people in judo, people doing these karate schools. I was doing kung fu, kind of like a Wing Chun type of style, but I was like, holy crap, someone's going to take me to the ground. And so I was like, I better learn this ground stuff. Or actually, I had a buddy, he actually did this Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and it was starting to catch on. I was like, hey, let's see how effective this is. Try to take me down and try to submit me. Within 1 minute, he took me down, submitted me, and I was done. It was freaking crazy. And I was like, man, I need to learn this stuff. So I started off in the gi. Didn't really like the gi too much because the excess bulk of a gi in the laundry machine, it's heavy, it's hot, not my cup of tea. So that's when I started reading this guy, Eddie Bravo. And I was like, one day I was in college, like we were in the gym, I was practicing all these moves, like my rubber guard and stuff like that. I was like, one day I'm going to train at Eddie Bravo's. And guess what? When I moved to LA, became a pharmacist, that's when I went to the legendary 10th planet. Now, I was a very slacker student. I was not very consistent. I think I started in 2013. I could definitely be a higher rank by now if I consistently went, but I would go like once a week and stuff and all that. But it wasn't until I turned about 30 years old when I lost my job over this YouTube channel, which I break down in my mistakes video, and my father passed away. When everything was just spiraling in my life, jiu-jitsu was the one thing I always wanted to get better at. And so I tell myself like, hey, I'm going to go jiu-jitsu a lot more regularly. I'm going to actually commit to it rather than just being on and off and just like being a white belt forever. But there's this like 6 a.m. class. And I'm like, let's try this 6 a.m. class, right? And so I walk in and I see this really handsome Armenian guy. And basically, I ran into this guy named Patrick down in Medium. And if you don't know Patrick, he's actually competed against like people like Gordon Ryan, got armbarred, and he's actually one of the coaches who teaches at the morning class too. He's the most patient, kindest person I know, who makes a lot of jokes. Recently, we've been working together and he's been telling me that he's been doing improv class and he's been working on his comedic delivery. He's not like all the other 10 Planet bros, like, yo, high rollers, let's blaze and stuff. If you put a suit on him, he looks like a consultant, right? But anyways, I found my coach, Patrick. And I remember the first day I was like telling him, oh yeah, like great class. And then he was showing me how to, like during this time, leg locks were all the thing. So he was trying to teach me how to, from butterfly guard, how to shoot for ashi. And I was like, my ashi was all messed up and up. And so like, that's how we became friends. And over time, we just started talking about like digital marketing, high ticket stuff. At the time, I was taking a guru course. Oh my God, this is so embarrassing. I was taking Dan Locke's high ticket closer. And I was like, yeah, I can close deals. By the way, I couldn't close deals. I was really, really bad. And I was super like, that Dunning-Kruger effect. It's just like when you're a white belt and you think you're really good at something, but you actually really suck. You just know a little bit, but for some reason, like we take it as like we're experts. As a current blue belt, I know this. Like I know I'm not perfect. I'm kind of a dumbass, like at times, right? Anyways, over the years, we're just really good friends. I would show up to his class, and actually, he promoted me to my blue belt. At the time, he wanted to build out his course because courses were all the thing. It was before the whole BJJ fanatics kind of took over the industry, but he had a custom course that he wanted to do, which he ended up like, dude, I freaking hate this thing. I don't want to do this. Yeah, I introduced him to my boy Rich Anish. He started building his website, started getting a lot of SEO traffic, started doing like private coaching and all that, but he was capped at a certain point. And then I remember like it's about this time last year, Patrick reached out to me. He was like, Kevin, I want to do high ticket sales. I want to be an inbound closer. I was like, whoa, wait, what? Dude, you are world class in jiu-jitsu. You're teaching at one of the best gyms in the world, and you want to do inbound sales? I was like, nah, this is so weird. I was like, are you sure? And he was like, yeah. I was like, I'm absolutely sure. In my mind, I was like, we're not going to end up doing that. He's going to end up doing this and hating this, by the way, and we're going to launch his high ticket jiu-jitsu offer. So I took him on as a client and I threw him on sales calls, and he started understanding the flow and stuff. That's what I loved about Patrick. Since he was a black belt, he knew how to learn already, so it just made things a lot easier, and I could feed him jiu-jitsu analogies, which I do all the time in my private coaching. So it just made everything really a lot quicker. And then one day, like during our coaching engagement, he was like, Kevin, I don't want to do inbound sales. I was like, I knew it. I knew this day was coming, right? And I was like, cool. So you ready to learn what I really want to do with you? And this is how we did a high ticket offer for jiu-jitsu. And to be honest, at the time, I had zero idea of like what the offer was, but I guess, I wanted to kind of break down the steps that we did, because it was kind of cool, because it wasn't my first time launching a high ticket offer. Obviously, I did it for my private coaching and I've done it for a few select clients, but I've gotten a lot better at crafting offers through the work of Alex Hormozy or Blair Enns. And Chris Do actually too. Those are the three people that I really, really looked up to in this space. I want to kind of walk you through the timeline of like what we did and the story behind everything, so that if you want to launch your own high ticket jiu-jitsu offer, or if you want to do your own high ticket in another space that is untapped, is really, really cool. Let's get into it. Lesson number 1, going premium is all about markets. If you don't know, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of people will say, oh, there's no money in jiu-jitsu. People won't pay for high-end premium jiu-jitsu services. Right? Something I've learned through neuroscience and through a lot of reflection is to ask myself better questions. Rather than asking myself, are people going to pay for a premium high-ticket jiu-jitsu service? The question I started asking myself would be like, who would pay for a service that is $10,000 per month. Because it's not your average competitor, it's not your UFC fighter, it's not your average like casual jiu-jitsu person. It begs that question because a lot of times what I find is that we limit ourselves. We tell ourselves no one will pay for this. But at the end of the day, it's kind of a limiting belief that we have. And we have to ask ourselves, is that the reality? Is that actually true? I started asking Patrick and I like who would pay for a multiple $1,000 retainer for this. And so we were doing research. At the time, Joe Rogan just interviewed Mark Zuckerberg and all these celebrities were doing jiu-jitsu and how he had a private coaching offer. With the help of Patrick, because Patrick is obviously the expert in the fitness niche, in the coaching niche, in the jiu-jitsu niche, he was like, interesting. I'm noticing this trend of people coming to you for fitness. So what if I were to build an offer where we could go to them? When Patrick said this, in my head, I was like, oh my God, this reminds me of like this chapter of 100 million offers. And there's like 4 things. He talks about the concept of the starving market in 100 million offers, where it's like, there's 4 factors. 1, pain. Are they an immense amount of pain? Meaning, do they have a problem that they would want to solve urgently? 2, purchasing power. Do they have the ability to pay, right? I think about Ramit Sethi all the time, and back in his like Earn 1K course a long time ago, he used to ask, will they pay and can they pay? Number 3, are they easy to target, right? Like if I were to do a Facebook ad or Google ad, could I identify their target demographic? And number 4, is it a growing market? And when we look at jiu-jitsu, right? The growing market is the easy part because we're seeing like trends like this year alone. ADCC is just blowing up. UFC is hosting jiu-jitsu events now. So most celebrities like Joe Rogan and Mark Zuckerberg and a lot of celebrities are also doing jiu-jitsu right now. So we know the market is growing. Okay, is it easy to target? Well, at the time, we didn't really know what niche or what type of people, right? But in order, like we just did rough benchmarks, right? To kind of identify who would actually pay for the service. Because if the target is 4K per month, they need at least like, I think we calculated it out, at least 200 to 300K per year. And that works perfectly in LA, especially because that's where we're located, right? There's a lot of high income type of people. Maybe the people that we're trying to target are in the Beverly Hills, Hollywood, why did I say Hollywood like that? Hollywood, that sort of area. We're thinking about that, but we didn't know what profession that we wanted to target. That's a thing that a lot of people skip, is like Patrick is insanely good at what he does. Like not only as a competitor competing against Gordon Ryan, but he's a really, really good coach. What makes Patrick very different from other people is that he breaks it step by step. He always has checklists. He makes it pretty entertaining, and he has this concept of micro battles. Like he knows how to teach and coach really, really well. And so a lot of people, because of his class, right? Because he teaches at 10 Planet HQ, the main place where Eddie Bravo is, what Patrick was able to do actually was he was able to get private clients. And during the conversations, I started asking Patrick, well, who are the students that didn't bat an eye, right? At the pricing when you talk to them. What are the occupations that these people are doing? Why do they do it? And this is where we kind of were diving into the pain, because he had clients already. He was able to do this. Like, let's say if you're doing your own offer and you don't know the pain points, we have these hypotheses. We can go on Reddit. We can go on like all these different things, right? We can have actual sales conversations, which I'll talk about later, to do our market research, right? And also this leads to the other point I was talking about, purchasing power. Do they have the ability to pay? So someone like who is probably in college, unless they come from a trust fund family or something like that, they're probably not going to be able to afford this concierge jiu-jitsu service. The clients that we have right now, typically they're on the older side. They're not going to be the young person just starting up. We thought that we were going to target like entrepreneurs, but if you know anything about entrepreneur life, especially if you're a startup, you're strapped for cash a lot of time. Are you going to really spend that discretionary income into that? Not really. So we started targeting retired doctors. We started targeting script doctors, who are basically like people in Hollywood who just like fix up scripts and you get paid extraordinary amount of money. What we realized is like people especially in the creative industry, those are people who have the ability to pay and who would want to pay for something like jujitsu. So now that we had the market of like, you know, high income people who have tried jujitsu before, and if you check out Patrick's sales page, it's actually really done well. We spent an extraordinary amount of time just crafting that sales page, understanding the offer and stuff. Like honestly, if someone copies like Patrick's offer, I'm truly not worried. It's like we understand the market that we cater to, but they don't have that professional how do I put it, presence, right? That's lacking a lot of time. So now that we had like a market laid out, what was the next step? Well, this goes into the second lesson. Lesson number 2. We learned how to craft an irresistible offer based on their pains. There's this concept of irresistible offers. And prior to reading Alex Hormozi's book, I had zero idea what an irresistible offer was. Like, we watch movies like Wolf of Wall Street, and there's this one scene that comes to mind where it's like, sell me this pen. And people are just talking about the features. Oh yes, it flows easily, it does X, Y, Z, it's made out of... The truth is no one cares about that shit. Especially with people who are like really technical, who are really kind of in the weeds, who have a more analytical mind. What I find is that a lot of people just fixate on the features, not benefit. There's this saying, you know, people want to enjoy the sausage, not the how the sausage is made. People care about the benefits, what it actually means to them. And there's this great book called Cashvertising, one of my favorite books. Well, there's only two concepts I really like. It's called the Life Force 8 and the 9 Human Learned Wants. And with the 9 Human Learned Wants, what's really interesting about that is like, these are the things that society tells us. So some that come to mind is to be more efficient, to be cheaper, for a bargain. Like, these aren't things that we'd want in the wild. Like, if intrinsically what we want is like to be loved, to be superior, to be winning. It's like, these are the things that relationships, better quality of life, right? And it kind of correlates with Maslow's hierarchy of needs too, which is really, really interesting. Anyways, when I was learning about irresistible offers, and was reading Alex Hormozi's book, it simplified things. And one of the things that comes to mind is like, if you're listening to this, think about the last time you had an irresistible offer. And you might be thinking, oh, it's this major big ticket type of thing. But really, like, one of the examples I use in my inbound sales cohorts is like an LA street dog. If you don't know what an LA danger dog after the club is like, I've actually never had one because I'm never drunk. I don't drink. You'll see these hot dog ladies outside of the bar, right, cooking these hot dogs. They're usually bacon wrapped and all that sort of stuff. You can literally smell it. Dude, these look really, really good. But since I don't eat pork either, like, it's kind of like, man, I wish I could enjoy it, but I can't. Anyways, as soon as you walk outside, you're just like, man, it smells so good. And it's like, you just instinctually want it. And then you're just like, oh, you find yourself like paying money for it. You don't care how much it costs, especially if you're inebriated. You definitely don't care how much it costs, even if it means risking something like food poisoning too. And since it's right there, you just buy it, you enjoy it, and you're like, oh, it was worth it. Some of my friends are guilty for buying 2, 3, 4 of these glizzies and swallowing them whole. It's crazy. The situation I just described of irresistible offers, it actually correlates to 4 different things that Alex Hormozi talks about in his book. We think about value. Oh, that's valuable. That's not so valuable. But how do we discern what value is? And according to Alex Hormozi, there's 4 different factors that go into value. 1, it's like the dream outcome. Does it actually solve where I want to be and get to where I want to be? 2, perceived likelihood of achievement. How likely is it for me to actually obtain whatever I'm seeking out? And then on the denominator, so if you imagine like a fraction, there's time delay. The shorter the time delay, the more valuable it is. And the relative effort and sacrifice. When I'm talking about the glizzy, the LA Danger Dogs, it's like, oh, you just want a really, really great meal right after the club. You want something to eat. What's the perceived likelihood of achievement? Well, you walk out the bar and there's food right there. You don't have to cook it and which leads me to the next part, the effort and sacrifice. You don't have to cook it at home. It's already done for you. And then the time delay. Oh, like I don't have to wait an hour, 2 hours, and that's value. So what does this have to do with like a jiu-jitsu offer? When we're diving into the target avatar and to Patrick's like previous clients, the dream outcome was like, oh man, I want to train jujitsu again. And that feeling of jujitsu of like, dominating, being dangerous. People really strive of that, right? Because like jujitsu is addicting. You see yourself getting better every single day. Some people thrive off like the competition, not me particularly. And it's just really, really fun. There's something so innate about it where it's like you're wrestling. It reminds us of our childhood sometimes, like wrestling your brother, at least for me, wrestling with my brother. Okay, right? People want that dream outcome. Or maybe it's a status type of thing. They see everybody else like doing it and they're like, oh dude, I want to be dangerous too. Goes back to Life Force 8 that we talked about earlier. And then the perceived likelihood of achievement. The reason why we did concierge jiu-jitsu was that this is not like, hey, show up at our gym. We go to them. So let's go to the next part, effort and sacrifice. Well, especially if you want to train in LA, something that a lot of people don't realize is that a jiu-jitsu session can cost you 2 to 3 hours. Maybe you spend like an hour in LA traffic going to the gym, you spend an hour going back, and then you train for maybe about an hour and a half. And like, dude, your time is up. You have to go back home. You gotta get showered. You gotta do laundry. There's a huge commitment with jiu-jitsu. Not only that, man, sometimes like you slap hands and you're going against a D1 wrestler and it's your first day and you get slammed to the ground and you get winded and you're like, oh, frick, I don't want to do this anymore. And then maybe even worse, maybe you get injured and that puts you out and you hate that feeling, right? Well, what if we could remove that? Jiu-jitsu is still a combat sport, but what if we could remove the imminent danger of getting heel hooked and blowing out your ACL and being off the mats for like 6 months? And then time delay too. Like, dude, we work based off your time, not the other way around. Perceived likelihood of achievement. Dude, we bring the mats to you. We set up the mats in your house and you can just train after you're working, shower, and then go back to work. So we based off our irresistible offer off of that. Honestly, there's a lot more that goes into the irresistible offer, but that's how we came up with concierge jiu-jitsu, right? I think like oftentimes like the best ideas, you don't need a killer idea sometimes, right? But the best ideas are taken from other industries. Like I said, like there's like the fitness industry where they come to you, you work out, which is really interesting. Obviously, there was a lot of wordsmithing because I think Patrick wanted to call it bespoke jiu-jitsu. I'm like, dude, I'm educated. I don't even know what bespoke means. Maybe not that educated, I guess. So I was like, dude, let's call it something that makes sense, that is more popularly termed. Let's call it concierge jiu-jitsu. And so we actually started calling it that, and people are like, oh, I know what that is, right? And when we were breaking down the offer about the service and all that, we actually started asking Patrick's current clients, right? We noticed certain students who kept on pushing their sessions off, and we just started asking them, hey, I have this idea. Would it help if like we came to you? And they're like, what do you mean about that? By that? And I was like, oh yeah, this is a new service we're offering. It's not fully ironed out yet, but we're planning on piloting it. Would you be interested? And some of the clients were interested, some of them weren't, but that's how we were testing out our offer too, right? Seeing like, did it resonate? Often too many times people just like want to make money as quickly as possible, but we did a lot of market analysis and just writing an avatar and doing all these things. We mapped out customer journey from how do they find us to like actual sale and fulfillment, because fulfillment is the most important thing. If your service sucks, no one wants to buy from you. But this was all kind of crafting the offer. When I'm looking back, we probably spent almost 80 hours. Like we spent a good 2 months just refining the avatar, the customer journey, and the sales page. So once we created our offer, what was next? Lesson number 3, we treated our sales calls as conversations, not as a pitch fest. Now, a lot of people have aversion to selling. They treat it like this high stake, like almost like, will you marry me type of situation. Very high stakes, high pressure. It's just like, but it doesn't have to be like that. A lot of times my sales calls, the way I teach sales, is just like conversation. It's a more structured conversation, but the vibe should still feel natural, right? But it takes time. So when Patrick was trying to charge a higher amount, I could tell that there was a bit of hesitation. We used some qualifying questions, specifically like price bracketing and all that. If you look on my channel, there's I broke down my 500K per week script. So we use some of those qualification questions, the timing questions to anticipate objections and all that. Even before that, I told Patrick, right? I was like, listen, just treat it as market research. It's like, really testing out our hypothesis, whether people would buy, who would buy. In a typical sales call, you'll go through like a discovery, you'll see what solutions that they tried, what they're trying to do, like all this sort of stuff. Like after we got all that information and understand their situation and actually care about the person rather than looking at them as a dollar sign, I told Patrick like, hey, listen, let's just take a break. Like, don't sell them, don't present anything. Let's just take some time to just like list out all the problems as solution, right? And just like list out some things that would benefit them. And so this actually helped to reduce a lot of the anxiety for Patrick and for a lot of new students who are selling high ticket, right? Especially if you're increasing it quite a bit. There's ways to kind of reduce the anxiety. And like for me, when I was first like starting in sales, I used to be super nervous and I used to project my values. I'm like, oh shoot, this is a lot of money. But just because like it's a lot of money to me doesn't mean it's a lot of money to them. And then when we think about it too, it's like when we pay for premium, like whether it's insurance or anything like that, when you pay a high premium, we're essentially taking risk away from the client and putting the risk on ourselves. That's where like, you know, we see these like guarantees and all that. Like people can charge high prices because they offer such a kick-ass guarantee. Well, for Patrick, while he's giving up his time to do jiu-jitsu, like concierge jiu-jitsu session, it's actually very costly for Patrick. We decided to build in a risk reversal of some sort. To be honest, we're still working on this right now. Like it's not completely worked out, but something that we do is give people like a trial, right? Paid trial, by the way, but we charge a single session to see if they like it and see if Patrick wanted to take them on as a client. You know, jiu-jitsu is very up close and personal. Sometimes you just might not want to work with someone, but it allowed for both parties to just try something. And I got this concept from the book Triability, from the book The Catalyst, like making things a little bit easier, reducing the friction, getting people to enjoy the process, right? To get the thrill of jiu-jitsu. And it's pretty ethical too, right? Like, you know, you wouldn't want someone just to pay a huge retainer and then like be like, oh, I don't like it. What do you do? Sorry, no refund. We're basically facilitating change, right? Making change a lot easier for people. So we're removing the risk of them getting injured. We're removing the friction of them driving to the gym. We're doing a lot here. And we're taking the time to get to know someone too. Because if you think about how most jiu-jitsu, like I've been pitched before by a lot of jiu-jitsu coaches, they don't really take the time to get to know you. They just like, hey, you want it or not? And that's it, right? It's like this hardcore old school like sales tactic that doesn't make premium clients feel like you're working their best interests. You know, I think about this book. It's called The Trusted Advisor, and there's the trust formula, and it goes with credibility, reliability, intimacy, and self-orientation. And something like credibility. Oh, you're a black belt. It's like your credentials. Reliability is like how your actions align with your words. So like, oh, if I'm going to be on time, I'm going to show up on time. And that's how you can build trust there. Intimacy. This is not like sexual or anything like that, but can I speak openly in front of this person? Do they allow me the space to just like speak openly and freely? We all know what it's like having that shady ass friend who always judges you. No one likes them, right? They probably shouldn't be your friend then. And then like the last one is the most important thing, self-orientation. You're working in their best interests. I always talk about this concept of kicking yourself over the deal. It means like doing things like in their best interest. Even during our sales conversations, we'll ask people like, well, I'm kind of curious, like, why haven't you gone to like a regular jiu-jitsu gym? What are some of the barriers getting in that way? It's a lot cheaper. There's a lot of like things that we do on our sales calls to build up that self-orientation, to ask them questions, to be like, hey, have you ever considered this option? Have you ever considered just like training at your local gym that's 2 miles away? Through this consultative process that we do, that really attracts these like high income people. When you compare the experience of going to a law firm or hiring an accountant or any professional services, it's usually a very consultative type of process, right? You want to get to know the person, you're building a relationship. But like I said, a lot of jiu-jitsu bros, they don't care. They just like do these high sales pressure tactics, and it's not a really great experience for a lot of people. That's why we use our sales calls as conversations. It's relationship building, and we use it as market research too. Okay, so now that we talked about 3 things, right? We talked about finding the right market, we We talked about how to craft the irresistible offer. We talked about the sales conversations of the qualifying questions and working in their best interests and asking them solution questions and problem questions and a bunch of other stuff that you can find on my sales script video. So what's next? Even though we have like 2 major clients right now just for concierge, the plan is actually to scale up the offer, right? Doing more Google ads. I'm not sure if you guys know, but I am a partner at a digital marketing agency too. So we're going to be using those services and just helping Patrick like blow up his offer. And the beautiful thing about this is like once Patrick is at fulfillment capacity, then what we can do at that point is actually raise our prices. And that's what we do for a lot of our clients. So I'm really excited for Patrick's next stage. I told Patrick and Patrick is really smart too. He's in the marketing field and I was like, dude, don't blow all your money. Let's reinvest some of this money back into marketing. I'm excited to see Patrick's next stage. Anyways, that's how we launch a high ticket offer. If you want me to talk more about this stuff, I can nerd out about this all the time. I came to a realization recently that I love helping business owners and creators over like I want to be a high ticket closer and stuff. I'm like, that's great. But like the real opportunity is crafting your irresistible offer, right? It's a lot of work. It's a lot of fun though. Like you just like, if you hear me talking this whole time, it's just like me smiling, dude. Like, I'm not sure if you can hear it, but I'm like smiling, talking about this offer. It's just really, really exciting. I never get sick of it. It's really, really fun. Anyways, if you need help with marketing or doing your own high ticket offer or even launching a jujitsu offer, feel free to DM me. I'm like more than happy to share what I know. Or if you want to work more formally, we can have an open discussion about that. Otherwise, I'll see you on the next episode of The Friend Zone. Stay compassionate, stay authentic, stay rebellious. Peace. Whoosh.